Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our May Grid Talks, Green Jobs and Equity equals Restorative Justice. The goal of our Grid Talks webinar series is to bring together leaders from the renewable energy field and environmental justice movement to discuss clean energy access and community-centered solutions. Through these webinars, we seek to amplify the voices of Grid's communities and share the stories, experiences, and work that are creating mission impact and systemic changes. My name is Carol Bernard, and I'm the VP of Communications at Grid Alternatives, and I want to thank you all for joining us today. Please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat, say hello, and let us know where you're sitting. I'm excited to introduce to you our three panelists, but first, a few quick event logistics. This webinar will be recorded and available for you to rewatch, and for those who are unable to join us today, your video and audio are automatically muted, but you can add comments to the chat and ask questions via our Q&A button. Be sure to submit your questions to our panelists. We will get to as many of them as we can at the end of the session, approximately 15 minutes before the end of the webinar. So with that said, let's get into today's event. It is my pleasure to welcome our panelists, Elijah Perry, Executive Director of Grid's Mid-Atlantic Office, Karina Gonzalez, Co-Executive Director of Grid's Central Valley Office, and Shamika Dixon, Director of Workforce Development for Grid's Greater Los Angeles office. With our three panelists, you will learn how Grid's Workforce Development Program creates mission impact in diversifying the solar industry while centering equity, inclusion, and diversity. Our regional offices exemplify this every day by training community residents and providing new career paths for individuals who were justice involved, one of the many initiatives that make Grid so unique. Before we get into the discussion, let's have each panelist tell us a little bit about themselves, your current role in the industry, and what led you here. We can start with Elijah.
Thanks, Carol. I appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Hi, Karina and Shamika. As Carol said, my name is Elijah Perry. I'm the Executive Director of Grid Alternatives Mid-Atlantic. Here we use pronouns, so my pronouns are he, him, and his. I've been with Grid now for 5 years. Actually, I celebrated my Grid anniversary on Sunday. So 5 years I've been with the organization. Prior to Grid, I was working at an organization called PFLAG National, where I was leading fundraising for their organization, for their national office. And then prior to that, I worked for other nonprofits and still in the civil work space, like Habitat for Humanity and other organizations. I've been now working both in government as well as a nonprofit for 30 years. And just happy to be here. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you so much for sharing. Karina.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Carol. My name is Karina Gonzalez. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the co-executive director at Grid Central Valley. We're located in Fresno. I've been here for almost 12 years. And I've gotten a chance to experience pretty much all the different departments within our office. And so what brought me to Grid was years ago, I was looking for an opportunity to be part of something that was just changing the way that our communities saw the electrification and the renewable energy sector. And as I walked the mile and kind of found Grid Alternatives, they just happened to be installing right down the street from my house in the communities that I lived in. And I just was amazed by the work that the team was doing and wanted to be a part of it. And so I've been really fortunate to be able, from the ground up, see all of the different aspects of what our organization does and the impacts that we have on our local communities.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Shamika.
Hey everyone, my name is Shamika Dixon and I'm the Director of Workforce Development at Grid Alternatives Greater Los Angeles. I've been with Grid for about a year, but I've worked in workforce development for almost 12 years. What brought me to workforce development is I started an AmeriCorps program that really introduced me to workforce and economic development, and somewhere along the lines, I really found a passion within the work, and my biggest thing is try to build capacities, whether it's capacities through skills and trades and learning, or just building capacity in in employability services. So I am really happy to be here today, and I'm looking forward to deep diving into this conversation, and I hope everyone learns a lot. And please feel free to share in the comments if you have anything that can increase any of our programs here. I'm looking forward to shared learning as well as just sharing what we're doing here at Greater Los Angeles.
Thank you, Shamika. I love that. Yes, we're all learning in this space together. And so it is a journey for all of us. But thank you all for sharing kind of that beginning of your career and how you got to Grid, and certainly involved in the great work that we do here. Now let's set the stage for our discussion today. Criminal legal reform and restorative justice are two topics that are very important to me. So I am very excited as well to have this conversation today. As many of us know, mass incarceration in the United States disproportionately impacts the poor and people of color due to centuries of institutional racism. A few facts to give context. According to the Equal Justice Initiative, the US has 5% of the world's population, but nearly 25% of its incarcerated population. In 1972, there were 200,000 people incarcerated in the United States. Today, that number has grown to 2.2 million. The outcome of mass incarceration is that people leave overcrowded and violent jails and prisons more traumatized, mentally ill, and physically battered than they were before they were incarcerated. So advocates are addressing criminal legal reform in many ways, including restorative justice. Restorative justice conceives of justice as repair to the harm caused by crime and conflict. Understanding and responding to the needs of each involved party and the broader community is central to the collective creation of a just outcome. So with that context, I'd love to hear from each of you. What is restorative justice to you? We can start with Karina.
Absolutely. Restorative justice is a huge part of the work that we do out of the Central Valley office. It's bringing individuals through our doors, giving them an opportunity to rebuild and reestablish those connections into the community that were once severed by them going through the traumas that they experienced in the social or the unjust social justice system. And all through that process, they've had doors closed. They've had individuals who were not able to help or provide services. And so when they come through our doors and they meet a team of individuals who are willing to walk alongside them, provide the services that they need, connect them with amazing partners who will provide wraparound services as well, it creates a holistic approach to starting to help to provide that security and that support that will ultimately lead to healing of all of that they've experienced in the traumatic situations of the past.
Wonderful. Shamika, please.
Restorative justice to me means chance, opportunity, whether it's the first, second, or third chance. We here at Grid really open our doors to allow people to excel in a space where they have people that can relate to them, people that maybe not understand what they've gone through, but are here to make sure that we help them progress along in their careers or in whatever they're doing in their life. We want to, here at Grid LA, we are a stepping stone between opportunity, chance, and self-sustainability. So restorative justice to me is chance. And again, whether it's the first or the second or the third, we're here to make sure that we help people along their journeys.
Awesome. Thank you. And Elijah.
Yeah, restorative justice to me is very personal. I have family members who have gone through the judicial system and have been looking for opportunities after they've been released. And so that's something that we're very passionate about. That's not personally, but work that we do here at Mid-Atlantic is not just making sure that they're thriving in a professional sense, but also, like Karina and Shamika said, making sure that they provide and receive those wraparound services, which is something that's very important. It's one thing for us to provide opportunity, right? But it's another thing for us to actually go in and really do the work. And so, the thing that I love about the work that we do across Grid, be it GLA or be it at Central Valley is the fact that we roll up our sleeves and we just look past the person and see them and meet them where they are, and actually provide them and connect them with the resources that would have them to thrive, not just be successful in their lives, but thrive and also be able to bring up others as well too.
Yes, thank you. Excuse me, all three of you. It is about certainly thriving and not just surviving, right? There's a lot of challenges that individuals face who have been justice involved, and certainly employment is a huge challenge because of stigma and all the things that come with that. Tell us a little bit, if you could, about the opportunities that your region's workforce development program provides specifically to individuals who have been justice involved. We can start with Shamika.
So here at GLA, we offer a 13-week paid solar installation training. In addition to that, we offer wraparound services with partners, whether it's mental health services, as well as supportive services with transportation, financial literacy that we're offering through Chase. So we want to make sure that individuals that come through our 13-week program are well-rounded. By the time they leave here, they have wealth and money management. They also have a space to really talk about those challenges, because I feel like a lot of times we expect people to go through our programming and not encounter challenges, whether it's communication, how do you advocate for yourself? And so I think here at GLA, we are focused on the whole person. And so we want to make sure that we provide resources at each level. And so that is particularly for people that are coming from behind the walls or have some issues with the justice system.
Thank you. Yeah, the wraparound services are critical, right? Critical. Elijah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And you'll probably hear us sounding like, a broken record a little bit, because we're going to talk about wraparound services a lot, because it's not just the training. It's also, more importantly, for me, it's that fact that we're actually understanding that life is life and for a lot of the folks. And so we want to make sure we meet them where they are. And so what we do here in Mid-Atlantic, we implement a program. It's called SolarWorks DC. And it's a partnership with the DC Department of Employment Services, as well as DC Department of Energy and Environment. Sorry about that. And what we do is that it's a 7-week program where we actually, have a lot of folks who come through the program who are returning citizens, and they receive the technical training, but then most importantly, they receive wraparound services, which also include, those soft skills training as well. I think one of the misconceptions about someone who folks that we serve are a lot from the Black and Brown communities. And a lot of the folks who are returning citizens in DC are representatives of the Black and Brown communities. And one of the misconceptions that is out there is that they don't understand the curriculum, that it'd be hard for them to grasp solar technology. That's not the case at all. That's not happening at all. What's happening is when they get in the classroom, they crush it in the classroom, they're crushing it on installs. But what happens is when they leave the classroom, they're going into a life that, quite honestly, isn't the most positive. We had a graduation for our winter cohort, actually. One individual got very emotional, and he shared with us that the program was the only positive thing that was going on in their life. So think about it. I know I don't have that privilege, right? Because I'm surrounded by so much positivity, right? But imagine you're in this program and it's ending, and that's the only positive thing that you had going on in your life. So it just really creates this reality for them that, that they can actually achieve something in their lives and actually be bigger and greater than the environment that's around them.
Yeah, I got goosebumps with that. Because at the end of the day, what GRID is doing is changing lives, right? And creating a pathway for a future that is about wealth building. I love the whole thread line of wraparound services and the wealth and money management that Shamika was talking about is really key as well. Karina.
The program that we offer at Central Valley is Solar Installation Basics Training 200, which very similar to Shamika's programming. Our program is a structured training that goes 5 weeks, offers the in-classroom hands-on. We have a lab structured out where they're able to build and learn and work through all the different pieces and modules that will ultimately lead to them being able to install an entire residential solar system. They go out on our community builds and they build out multiple solar systems back to back daily for 2 weeks. And upon graduation, they're not only ready to step in as solar entry-level solar installers into positions, but they're also safety certified as well in OSHA 10 and CPR. Not only do they learn the theory and the terminology around safety, but they're practicing it on a daily basis in classroom, in lab. And then as they go out to the industry, they're able to be a beacon of safety in their new companies. So through the reentry lens, for those that are returning citizens, what we offer and what we truly believe as just kind of the heart of the work we do is anonymity. They join our program in a group of individuals from every walk of life, and they are able to learn from the ground up with a team that will build with them. It creates networking opportunities and collaboration, provides a safe environment for them to explore and to grow and even make mistakes and learn that that's okay. We can fix them and learn how to navigate that. We also introduce different soft skills around communication, because we do know that that's something that gets silenced a lot of the times in the different traumas that they've experienced. And so how to properly communicate, how to express concern, how to work through some challenging conversations. And so they learn all of that through a working interactive environment with their team. And it's amazing to see how quick that transformation in that 5 weeks takes place. But what's even greater than that is when they come back just a couple weeks later with their new job, talking about their new team. And we've seen it go even further than that since we've been doing this work for years. We've seen trainees who've they've gone so far in their industry, they're coming back as employers and wanting to hire from our team. So it creates that whole circular understanding. They know who our trainees are. They want them in their companies. It creates that second chance, and it just is a circular effect. And we're just really proud to be a part of that.
Yeah, so awesome. One of the things I'm curious about too, because the job placement piece is an important aspect of the work that our workforce development program is all about. And as you work with different employers, what challenges have you faced, or maybe none at all, but I assume probably some, in engaging them about breaking down their understanding of who the population is, and understanding that a second chance is so important around the equity work that we do. So what are those conversations or challenges with employers related to job placement? We can start with Elijah.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. Just going to be just very transparent. We've placed more than 200 individuals. We've been implementing SolarWorks DC now for 6 years, and we've placed over 200 individuals into solar jobs. We do our interaction with trainees after the cohort, post cohort, and then after graduation, and even just throughout their journey. We've learned that it's probably maybe 10% of those individuals who are still in the solar industry. That's for various reasons, right? It's not just the trainees still trying to adapt. If we're talking about returning citizens trying to adapt being back home and being back in this new world, because the world was different before they started serving time, correct? Yeah. And so now they're still trying to adapt to that. And the biggest part is that the solar industry, quite honestly, has an issue with inclusion. I think inclusion speaks volumes, and it's a difference between metrics and impact, right? With diversity and equity, to me, that speaks directly to metrics. You can check a box with those two. But when it comes to inclusion, you're speaking directly about impact. And then even to take it even more further, I love the fact that the industry, the DEI or EID industry, have even evolved to include belonging, because that's even another layer on top of inclusion, making sure they're at the table, but even making them feel like, you belong here at the table. And so the barriers that we faced here when it comes to placement has been having those tough DEI, EID conversations with companies. And so what we've done is we've partnered with Streets Metro DC here in Washington, DC, and we've created an onboarding process for all of our employment partners and partners in general, that they have to take basic EID training. And it's just EID 101. We're not asking you to be a scholar in EID, but at least show that you care about the work, because then that lets us know if we're going to be placing our trainees or graduates in a company that they'll actually feel not just like they're just checking a box in a diversity and equity boxes, but most of all, that they feel included and that they belong at the company. And ultimately that speaks more towards and shows with like retention numbers as well too, not just for the company, but also for our program, because we're not just trying to have, metrics. We're trying to truly have impact and really change lives.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Karina.
Absolutely. When it comes to employers, it has definitely been a wealth of education and knowledge that we as an organization have been able to share, and that we have learned also from our partners. We work really well with the surrounding partners and solar companies within our area. And we've also realized that there are a lot of them that are willing to walk this mile with us. They do believe in second chance. They want to lower the rates of recidivism. And so because of that, we've been able to have these kind of difficult conversations, but really be able to unpack the challenges that they have and they've experienced with working and interacting with the populations that we're serving. And so it has led to some really interesting conversations, to say the least. What ultimately it helped us understand was that where there is a lot of willingness, there has to be the motivation and the connection from our trainees. There has to be the level of skill that's needed. And so once we were able to design a program that met the needs of what our employers were looking for, it opened the door for opportunity and for chance. What we found was that a lot of our trainees early on, before we had our IBT 200 program, they were finding it very difficult to talk about the skills that they knew. They got really nervous during sit-down interviews. They didn't know how to highlight themselves or how to talk highly about themselves. And so that led to them having missed opportunities, or so they felt. And so they would come back and they would talk to me, as I was a volunteer coordinator at that point, and just say with tears in their eyes, if these employers only saw what I could do, the value I could bring to the company, who I am, they'd hire me. And so with that thought, we were able to build out and incorporate into our training program the final day, which is known as our Solar Employer Showcase. We invite employers to come out and see our trainees in action, building out mock roofs, doing all of the work on the electrical, the solar electrical work that's going on through the inverters and the main service panels. They're bending conduit, they're running wires, they're demonstrating their safety and their interaction with each other. And the employers are able to observe this. And ultimately, they're able to look past a group of individuals and see who they are and showcase the best of who they are. And that has led to such successful completions. And what we ultimately ended up seeing is it helped us to frame the statement that we can grow our trainees to speak louder than their backgrounds. And on that day, they are at the same level as all the other trainees. And when we hand off resumes to the employers, they know that whoever they're calling has the quality, the skills, the know-how, and are going to be a stand-up employee. And that has made all the difference. We've had plenty of success with employers identifying the person and kind of going into a little bit of a conversation with kind of wages, because our trainees will get multiple offers. And for the first time in their life, they're seeing they have a lot of value because 2 or 3 companies all want them. And that has made the difference, and why we do the placement opportunities and the interactions with the employers the way we do it.
Awesome. I love that, speaking louder than their backgrounds. And Elijah was talking about more than just checking the box, right? It's about impact, not just metrics. Shamika.
I think for us at GLA, I want to answer this question in 2 parts, because I think cultivating a safe space for our trainees is one thing, but also creating a safe space for our employers. I do think that there's a lot of attractiveness around hiring folks who were formerly incarcerated, but there's also still some disbelief that these individuals have changed their lives. They're coming with a skill set. So I have a dedicated person that only builds our relationships with employers. One thing that we do, we offer one-to-one one-to-one job events. So we have an employer that comes and meet with our participants while they're completing their 13 weeks, so they can ask them questions, they can see what they're doing on the job. In addition to that, we invite them to our annual job fairs, as well as invite them to our participant graduations. We want to show them the whole person, the real person, as they're learning, as they're growing through this process. And so I feel like a lot of that just comes with us cultivating and sustaining the relationships. I try to make sure that we send, hey, it's Memorial Day weekend, happy Memorial Day to whomever that employer is, happy Easter. I want them to know when we call on them, it's not just to hire our participants. We want them to be a part of our holistic approach to re-engaging people and getting them jobs and making sure that they're successful. In addition to that, I also want to make sure that our trainees are successful. So we follow up with our trainees. Hey, what's going on at this employer? Are you having some challenges? Who's your supervisor? We then reach out to the employers. Hey, we heard this is happening with such and such. How can we support you? We want to be an advocate for both the employer and the trainee. So I try to make sure that my staff is equipped with the skills to be that advocate. And so I think we put a huge emphasis on employers, but I also want to recognize that they're coming from a different space. They have a need. They want that need met. But I want to let them know that we are actively making sure that we are providing our participants with the tool to meet those needs. And we could always still be there if there is some challenges, because there may be. However, we want to be that support, especially if we're promising them this spectacular workforce. And so it's a constant struggle. It's constant engagement. And we've just been we've just been blessed enough to have employers who are open and willing, some that are not, but are coming around to the conversation because we're actively re-engaging them. Hey, I know last time it was a no, but is it a yes this time? And so I think it's a continuous thing.
Yeah, it's a long game approach, right? It's a marathon and not a sprint. Love that. This kind of leads to the next question that I have, which is why is, and you've all touched upon it, but I'll just frame it in a different way. Why is the intersection between green jobs, equity, inclusion, diversity, and restorative justice so crucial as we think about criminal legal reform? And I use the terminology criminal legal reform versus criminal justice reform, having worked in this space in other organizations intentionally. So, but why is that intersection so important? We can start with Shamika.
I think it's because it's so new. There's a lot of other spaces and industries that are old, they're set in their ways, they have these ideas about people that are formerly incarcerated. I think the space that we're working in terms of workforce development, we can really shape how participants are received. And so I think for me, this is, in terms of the fight, we're at the beginning. So we can create those apprenticeship programs. We can create the IBT 200 programs that make sense, that are industry recognized. I really, really feel like we are just in a space where we can create some change versus other industries. Like I said, they are very stale in their views. And I really think that we have an opportunity, and I think GRID is really, really taking advantage of that opportunity. And I think as long as we stay at the forefront and we make sure anything that we offer is industry recognized, we include the industry, and we make sure that we're always ahead of the curve, I think we're creating so many opportunities for people that are looking to get back into workforce, who have served behind the walls or just had any involvement with law enforcement.
Yeah, thank you for that, Shamika. Elijah.
Yeah, I'll definitely plus one everything that Shamika said, and I'll also definitely say that it's not just us staying connected with the industry, but also bringing the community along with us. I think a lot of organizations, I don't think it's GRID because we definitely stay very close in contact with the community, but a lot of times you create resources for the community without the community. And so we just want to make sure that, we bring the community along with us along the way. And, like Shamika said, this is all still new. We could still tailor it for where it's like not just beneficial to GRID and our work and our mission, but mainly the community, because the community is our work and our mission and the product of our work and mission. So, and then really GRID, the way that we align all of our work with equity, inclusion, and diversity. I'm sorry, that's all I've known my entire career. So you'll hear me speak about it a lot. It's something that's been super important and actually makes GRID so unique. One of the things, that did bring me to GRID was our EID work in the community for solar industry and creating opportunities for Black and Brown communities, and creating not just through solar workforce training, but installations as well too. And so that's something that we just need to continue to do, but also sound like a broken record or a Missy Elliott remix. Make sure that we're bringing the community with us, because without them, there's no use of us even doing the work.
Yeah, I love that. And before I turn it over to Karina, I just want to kind of acknowledge that a lot of our trainees are employees of GRID. Not only are they being placed in wonderful organizations and companies outside of GRID, but we walk that talk, and so many of trainees have come through wonderful programs at the regional level and are now sitting in amazing positions at GRID. So it's such a testament to the work that you all do. Karina.
Thank you, Carol. And absolutely, just to echo that, there are so many individuals who have come through our doors that rotate through our offices, everything from the Solar Core program all the way to long-term employees who have experienced having gone through this process. And it's really a phenomenal opportunity to get a chance to work alongside all the community-based organizations, all the different workforce investment boards, all the individuals that are on daily in the trenches, working directly to help impact our community as well. And one thing that we've gotten a chance to experience is going to different forums and being part of those conversations around how we can help to increase the opportunities for returning citizens. And what we found very unique to that is when we walk in, we're coming in as an employer, we're seen as an employer, and there's very few employers that are in those conversations. We're surrounded by amazing partners from every angle, but the employers are the ones that are not part of the conversation to that level. And so, as Shamika mentioned, being that this is so new, it's a great opportunity for the industry to connect and get involved, because there are so many dedicated and passionate individuals out there that are trying to really make these connections and help to serve this population. And so the more that we continue those conversations, the more meetings that are made possible, the flexibility of even just doing them online instead of in person, all has expanded that opportunity for more people to get involved. And that way other companies can be just like GRID and continue to walk the walk. We know they want to, they just may not even know that these forums exist yet.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully some of these companies are a part of this webinar. Certainly as it's recorded, we will share it wide and far so that people can know about the work that's being done. They can be engaged and they can get involved. Again, this kind of leads to the next question about what needs to shift in the broader solar industry, right? To make it a more inclusive space. What does that begin to look like? So it's happening on a very local level, but on an interpersonal level, organizational level, even a local state level, what needs to shift so that that inclusion that we talk about is really a reality and not a checking of a box? Start with Karina.
Thank you. Yes, this is definitely one of the kind of questions that run through the walls of our building constantly, is how we can help, what we can be a part of just from an interpersonal level, what conversations can we have with other partners. One thing that we've noticed, and it's really inspiring us, is that as many of the individuals who do reenter from being incarcerated, they're lacking just the access to the basic right to work documentation, the driver's licenses, the basic required pieces of information that will make them successful in any job that they're going to get into, including the solar industry. And so we've recently partnered with a local jail who is starting to, before the individuals are released, they're going through the process of making sure that they have access to that documentation. They're helping them to reinstate their driver's licenses, because they're understanding the importance of, when the individuals are released, what is required for them to be able to just survive, let alone thrive. And so those kind of changes, and the more that we can talk through that challenge and open up those opportunities, because this is just one jail and there's so many that would be able to have access to this, and other programs that if the jail's not able to do that, there are community-based organizations and other programs that are able to go behind the walls, and they can work within the facility to implement those changes, because it's critical for the trainees and for the individuals that come through our door to be prepared, so that when we have an employer who wants to hire them, that they can accept that job without having to worry about, can you wait X amount of weeks or months for me to get this documentation in order? So that's just a really crucial part of what's missing in the conversation, is how do we best set the individuals up for success before they're even back in our community? Because otherwise we will continue to see that revolving door continue to open, just because there's not really opportunity otherwise.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, that's such an important point. That's such an important point. What I love about GRID too is that there's those opportunities for these kind of levels of partnership and engagement, and for us to be advocates on all these different levels of intersectionality of the work that we do. And so, how we, as an organization, if that's something we wanted to address, really begin that movement of like ensuring that folks, before they return, there's some of that documentation work that is done and put in place, so that there's a good start, right? A head start, if you will. Yeah. Shamika.
I definitely agree with Karina. She touched a lot of important points. One thing that I really want to highlight, and I think that there needs to be some changes. I think we say a lot of opportunity, but we offer solar installation training. And I want people that re-enter to society that's not the only thing that you could do. Let's create additional pipelines for individuals within our industry. So I definitely think about pre-apprenticeship programs that don't exist, apprenticeship programs that don't exist. I really want to strengthen the type of opportunities that we have to offer to folks, especially if we're leading the way, or we want to lead the way within this industry. So I want to make sure that the people that don't want to work in the field, that they have opportunity to get training for the back of the house, programmatically, in finance, design, whatever that looks like. And in addition to that, I just feel like the funding that's coming down the pipeline for free entry, a lot of it is in workforce development, but we expect people to take 13, 20 weeks, 25 weeks out of their lives to participate in this training, but we're not providing them with a stipend or a living wage. I feel like the ask is huge, but the money is not necessarily directed in the right ways. So if we're thinking about a whole person, we know that if somebody's taking this time out to go to school full time, work in the field, we need to provide some type of compensation, or maybe some housing. And I think that people look for these large number of successes without thinking about the day-to-day that this individual is going to have to, they don't get to step away from that. They can have children. They could be living in a shelter. They don't have a car. So I just feel like the way that the money is trickling down and the way that we identify who gets what and how much they.
Oop, you're muted.
We just like thinking about the reentry folks, and just folks in general as people, and not just an attractive season when it comes to funding. And so those are some things that I would really like to see change within the state, local, federal level.
Yeah, all good legislative agenda items right there, Shamika, and so critical to really the upward mobility of individuals when we talk about what success looks like in community wealth and building wealth. Yeah, economic development. Yes, thank you for that. Elijah.
I was over here nodding my head like a bobblehead with Shamika talking, because everything she said was definitely spot on around, not the stipends and making sure that they receive housing. That's something that we do, that we're actually blessed to provide through our partnership with DOEE and DOES. One of the things, and I don't believe in piggybacking off what others said, I believe that the industry and this in general, society in general, we need to have a lot more empathy as opposed to sympathy for one another. And I think that encompasses everything that Shamika was talking about. It's not about you providing someone a hand out, but providing them a hand out or actually trying to place them on the same playing field as others. And so, my mom, she raised me by the platinum rule of not treating people the way they, they deserve to be treated, but how they should be treated, which is like human beings. And so that's the platinum rule. And that's something I've always, used or kept in mind when I'm, doing my work, but be it professionally or personally. And I would like to see that reflected a lot more in a lot of the programs and resources that are being offered, not just to folks who are returning citizens, but also folks from Black and brown communities and in communities that we're actually serving, not just on workforce side, but also home ownership as well too.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. So true, and so important. I have one last question before we get to questions from attendees. We'll end on a very high note, but again, I just want to thank you all. You are inspirations. The work that you're doing is so critical. I have goosies because, we're changing lives, right? You're changing lives, and it's just so important in building that pathway for individuals to succeed, which means their families are able to succeed, and then the community is able to succeed. So just thank you for what you do. Last question. What are you most proud of accomplishing thus far as you do this work? And what are your hopes for the future? What are you looking forward to in this space? Karina.
Thank you. Wow, what are we proud of? One of the most amazing things that I've been able to be a part of since I've been here has been that not only do we serve this population through our training in Fresno, but we meet them where they're at currently. And so we go behind the walls of the local Madera County Jail, and we have been doing that now for 5.5 years, providing hands-on experience, introduction to solar technology. And we have a small lab there that they're able to build out small mock arrays and do the basic of the electrical wiring, just to get them engaged and understanding that there is opportunity outside these walls. And it helps them to understand, especially for those that may not know the technology and really understand what opportunities could exist. And so it's been an amazing journey to develop that partnership, what it has inspired, the various partners that have come alongside us, the Department of Labor, who supported us through a Pathway Home grant, who has made it possible not only for the trainees to learn behind the walls, but now they can basically, once they transfer out, they can come directly to our training center. We'll continue training them and provide that job placement assistance, the wraparound support. And so it creates a complete pathway for people to find success. And it's that holistic approach, and just to be able to be a part of it. The other thing that I'm so proud of is that when people come to our training center, the first thing we introduce them to is a wall of success, as we call it. And it is littered with pictures of all of these individuals with smiles on their face, holding tool sets. And that wall is a success wall because each one of those individuals is working in the industry. And the first thing I like to tell people is this is our example of what true anonymity looks like, what a second chance looks like, because looking at this wall of over 100 faces, you can't determine which one was a returning citizen. They blend in. Their smile is real. Their success is just as important as anybody else's, and their story is amazing. And so I'm just so just blessed and honored to be a part of this work and to be a part of the amazing team who makes it happen on a daily basis.
Thank you, Karina. Elijah.
Well, thank you. What I'm most proud of is actually being able to do this work with my staff. On the workforce team, our trainers, they actually went through our program. And so seeing their enthusiasm and passion and love and care that they put into the work and the trainees, is seeing that is just something that inspires me and makes me super proud and motivates me to continue to, wake up every morning at 7:30 and answer those emails and shut down at 9 p.m. to the very last email as well. And then those stories and the stories that the trainees share with me, about, where they started for week one, or actually before they even started the program, to graduation day. And then when they follow up with those phone calls and emails saying, hey, Mr. Perry, got a job at such and such place, and I couldn't have done it without you, and the coalition that we're building through this work, is something that I'm very proud of as well. I'm going to plug, our life manager and coach, Linda Stroman, who works not just Monday through Friday with our trainees to provide them support, but they also sometimes bring her phone on the weekends and they need, like a letter of support because they, are about to stand for their judge for a charge or something to that effect, or, they suddenly found themselves experiencing homelessness or food insecurity, and most importantly, and something that's something that's very close and dear to my heart is domestic abuse, and they find themselves in a domestic abuse situation. And so she's on the phone with them, trying to, either, counsel them, provide them with an ear on her shoulder to listen to, and then also, connecting them with those resources. And so this whole coalition that we have, built both internally at GRID, but most of all externally with our partners, is something that I'm super proud of. And one of the things that I'm very more excited to see is, as we are talking about, returning citizens, we're talking more and more about mental health, because, when folks come home, the world is completely different than it was, I said it earlier, than it was when they went in. And so I don't even get into the nuances of why they ended up where they were, right? All I care about is how are you going to be able to survive and thrive once you come home. And so we're going to really roll out a mental health program that's going to focus mainly on mental health. And it's not just mental health, but also building your own voice, understanding that your lived experience matter and your voice matters most as well too, because history has shown that Black and brown people, we've had to mute our voices and our experience, and we see it being rolled out where our history isn't actually being able to be taught in schools. So even our stories are now being completely obsolete or erased across the country. And so we want to try to continue to remind folks that regardless of what choices you made in your past, your voice mattered, your lived experience matter, and most of all, you have a coalition of folks who are here rooting you on and supporting you into whatever life that you envision yourself living, and that dream that you like to obtain.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to emphasize that, GRID, we talk a lot in terms of communications and storytelling around individuals having agency over their story. We talk about asset framing versus deficit framing, how you tell your story, how you give voice. And so just wanted to affirm what you had said and how important that is to GRID, and certainly to us as communications team. Shamika.
So I have a long list of things. So first, I'm proud of past and current trainees. I'm proud of the team that I work with every day. Shout out to GLA and Adewale. I really feel, I'm just grateful to be a part of the GRID team. In terms of the things that I want to do, I want to make sure that I'm a part of the team that aligns GRID as a powerhouse within the workforce development space. I feel like GRID is very new to the workforce development space, and I've come from the workforce development space, and I want to make sure that we are a contender in those spaces. So my biggest thing is growth. And what does growth look like at GRID? To me, GLA specifically, I'm thinking apprenticeships, pre-apprenticeships, additional training tracks. I'm thinking CTE, which is CTE pathways. I really want to make sure that we're here to stay. The opportunities that we talk about are embedded in the work that we do, and they're constantly growing, and we're expanding on our workforce development team, because workforce development at GRID is fairly new. And so when we come to those spaces, we're like the small organization, but in 5 years, we're the powerhouse. And that is my long-term ultimate goal. And I am so committed to making sure that that happens, or at least bring the knowledge that I do have and make sure that I leave it with folks that can continue that fight and that effort. So I am very proud of a lot of things, and I'm proud of what has happened, but I'm proud of where we're gonna go, and where we are going, and what we're doing collaboratively, and what we're doing just individually. So I'm just happy, and I just want to thank everyone that's on this panel, Carol, everyone that's here, and let's do some work. Let's do some work.
I so love that. I have no doubt, Shamika, that in 5 years, you will have expanded work. I have no doubt we'll have expanded workforce development. I love it. All of you are amazing. We ran over with questions, so we don't have as much time. we have a question here. Do you work with individual private contractors who may need multiple slots filled? And anyone can answer.
Yes, short answer. Short answer, yeah.
Let's see. This is for Shamika. This is for all of you. Does grid training graduate, anyone trained in work other than solar? Does grid train individuals in anything other than solar, such as energy efficiency, storage systems, decarbonization efforts?
Right now it's just solar, but it's definitely a part of the conversation. And I think that aligns with the growth direction that we're going into.
Let's see. What opportunities do you see to expand your workforce development programs? Are you planning to take advantage of any of the incentives from the IRA, the Justice 40 initiative, or state programs like SB 535? Curious to hear where you think there are opportunities to build additional capacity. Shamika touched upon some of those for sure. Certainly Karina or Elijah, anything to add to that?
Yeah, for Mid-Atlantic, we're actually going to take advantage of the virtual platforms that we utilized during COVID, because what we've seen is that during lockdown, was that a lot of folks who are like, working parents, they want to be able to take training and they can't physically go into like an actual building to actually take advantage of those programs because, childcare is so super expensive. And so we're going to actually build like a virtual platform into our standard SolarWorks DC or IBT 200 programming here in Mid-Atlantic.
Awesome. Karina, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
Absolutely. And as we continue to expand in kind of the training offerings through IBT, and as we look to see what the industry is looking to grow into, we're also continuing to expand our behind the walls as well. So our program that runs currently at the Madera County Jail, we will be replicating that to a new jail. And we've been in process of talking to other state facilities to see how we would be able to incorporate training for their population currently. And so there's a lot of opportunity within the facilities themselves. They're looking to bring in training that is innovative, that is in line with what the industry is looking for, that has complete opportunity for growth, not just in a small community, but nationally and worldwide. And so the more that we can have those conversations with partners and facilities, the more we'll be able to provide services and meet people currently where they are at in their life.
Awesome. Awesome. This question was for Elijah. Bridging the Gap in Virginia is a solar workforce development and criminal system reform organization in Richmond, Virginia. They definitely could benefit from some outside partnership, advice, and collaboration. Would y'all have an interest in chatting with them?
Oh, yes. Definitely reach out to me. I look forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Last question, I think, can you share what steps you are doing or should be taking to ensure that women and minorities are not left behind in the green jobs transition? We have a hard time recruiting women and minorities for our training programs.
So two things that we've done in GLA is we try to target women in solar specifically. So we go out for funding that's specifically for women in solar. We also participated in the Behind the Walls initiative. So we actually went behind the walls in a women's jail. We gave them basic intro to solar and then offered them the opportunity to enroll in our IBT 200 program, which is 13 weeks and paid. So we're doing a lot of legwork to make sure that we are actually being intentional about going after women in solar. In addition to that, once we get women here, we are creating an affinity group for women so we can have those conversations about the challenges that they may occur, whether it's here or in the field. We make sure that we pair women to other women here at GLA staff. So we try to be as inclusive as possible, but definitely going out for funding that's intentional to specific groups that we have a hard time meeting the needs of. So one is women, veterans, and disadvantaged youth, in addition to the reentry population.
Wonderful. Elijah or Karina, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
on top of the funding, so plus one Shamika about getting that shmoney, but and also we also feel like representation matters. So if you want more women to be in the solar industry or participate in your program, we make sure we have a woman who actually is a part of our construction tab. And so she's one of our 2 instructors. Dominique, if you're on, shouting you out right now. And so what Dominique does is she's amazing with not just being a champion and for women while, for the training program, but she also shows that, you can do this as well too. And so more and more with each cohort, we see more and more women who are actually participating in the program and actually, quite honestly, doing a much better job on the roof than a lot of the men are trainees as well too. So, having that representation in the program from like the actual instructor seat is what we've seen has been like a huge success for us and attracting more women into the program.
And then lastly, I will say I'm very echoing everything Elijah said and what Shamika brought to the attention, and just really adding to the fact that mentorship opportunities, having those women on the staff really speak volume to any additional trainees or individuals that are looking to get into this work, and just creating that connection, providing that space. The affinity group is an amazing idea, and I'm probably going to be borrowing that, Shamika. But having that through our team, we've been able to, we have 2 amazing individuals in our construction team, Jackie Brown and Cynthia Mencia, shout out to them. They're amazing and phenomenal women. They have worked their way up to being leaders in their field, and now they're inspiring other women to see that there are paths, that they created their own and how they held that. And so creating that opportunity for them to come in and talk and interact and really be able to provide that message and provide that just beacon of hope to anybody who's looking to walk that same path. And so it is definitely a challenge, and in our demographic we experience the same, but when we get women through our doors, we make sure that they know that there is opportunity here. We will do everything we can to provide support, wraparound services, and really see that success. And sometimes they're so great we just keep them on staff, so you never know where they're going to go.
Well, oh yes, Elijah.
Really quick, and so and I know we talk a lot about like women being represented and like women actually, iron sharpens iron, right? And more women encouraging other women. I think also, men, we need to hold ourselves accountable as well too and be better allies to women in the construction space. I see it a lot, in a lot of the areas in the projects that I'm a part of. And so as a mama's boy, it infuriates me to the utmost to see. And so I think men, we need to do a much better job in holding ourselves accountable when it comes to supporting women, because we can't, the solution should not be hire more women and then more women would actually be a part of the industry. Men need to, we need to hold ourselves accountable as well too, and treat women as the jewels and the queens that they are in this work. I'm gonna get off my soapbox now.
Thank you that's a perfect way to close this. We love that. And thank you for being an ally for women, Elijah, in leading from that frame of reference. So we come to a close today. Again, thank you to our fabulous panelists, Elijah Perry, Shamika Dixon, and Karina Gonzalez, for all that you and your teams are doing. You're rock stars. We appreciate you. And thank you for changing lives and communities and having mission impact. So sorry we didn't get to everyone's question, but feel free, you could email the comms department if you have a question for our panelists, and we can make sure to get that to them. But we end today, and we thank you all again for joining us, and thank you to our panelists, and have a great day, everyone. Bye.